Hello everyone and welcome to SpaceChem 2024 tournament round super special Lockpicking. This is a very unusual round even by the standards of this tournament in that it is a real-time round. You do not have the standard metrics of cycles or symbols, and instead you are being judged only by the solution time. So in a way it is less a SpaceChem level and more a standard puzzle level. For this reason we are going to simply show what is to describe the level, show what is demanded of players, and going to do a very quick run through the solutions because, they are not optimized, they are not intended to be, and so on. So, what we have in this level is you have 4 reactors you are seeing on the screen, and you must find a certain input molecules that will pass through those and end up in the form that you see on the right. That's pretty much all there is to it. You are of course not allowed to modify the lock reactors, and I will show what specifically happens, beginning with the first solution. With the first solution we have a flight risk with a score of 1700, which is a bit over a day because they got hard stuck and thought this level would be impossible for reasons I am going to talk about in a bit. So let's begin by how is this done? I will show what is happening on the actual input molecule. There are, as far as I know, 2 possible solutions to this level. This is one of them. The input molecule is this 3x3 matrix with this sequence of atoms in those positions. In another variation, this will be a 49 and this will be a 79. So this is the first reactor, and it is a slice and dice reactor. What it does is first it moves the third column to the first position, then it rotates, then does this sequence of actions again on the blue. Then occasionally, like right now, red will take the 2 leftmost columns and turn them around and bond it into the same position but in the opposite orientation. Now the exact same sequence will happen again, shuffling the atoms around and around. This whole sequence of events will happen a bunch of times until it happens a bunch of time until let me remember how it goes. And if we pause here, we will see how the atoms transformed. So I'm not going to describe the details, but basically they got shuffled in a certain predictable way. An interesting hiccup here is that you will see one of the input atoms is a barium, which is a 2-valency atom, and for this reason it can only be placed in the corner because it is the only place where it will not cause unintentional bonds or unintentional early debonds, because of course if it is not in the corner it will be missing some bonds and it will debond early in some point in the process and basically break everything. The tricky part is that you are not strictly restricted to this sequence of atoms. they can be shuffled around, and this barium would chemically, for the following reactors, could be placed in one of two other positions, but it would break everything, and we had actually multiple people stumble on this and not notice this and think that this level was impossible. So anyway, we are finally done with this transformation. We are well, basically we are outputting the 4 atoms in a certain order in this bottom left quadrant, bottom left position. Now, this is the second reactor, and it is extremely simple. All that's happening here is bond sensing. Everything that is less than everything that is 5 or greater gets put into the omega, and okay, let me just clean it up very quickly. And everything that is less than 5 gets output into psi. And the reason we are doing this is because of the third reactor, where we are making separate inputs from alpha and beta. And what's happening here is, if we input through alpha, in other way, if the valency is less than 5, then we are running through this little gauntlet. We are fusing things out until we end up with nitrogen. Of course, if the atom does not split down to nitrogen, then the whole thing breaks, and it is not fun for anyone involved. So essentially, we started with 50, and now we are left with 43, and the leftover nitrogen is discarded. And correspondingly, if we instead input from beta, meaning the valency is 5 or higher, then the exact same thing happens, but we split down to boron, and correspondingly 5 gets subtracted from the atomic number. And whatever we are left with gets passed on towards fourth reactor, which is the most interesting one. So what's happening here is, let me just do this real quick. We are just getting those 4 modified atoms and fusing them and bonding them into a stick. And now, after we hit this thing, the actual part of this solution begins, of this reactor begins. What this reactor does is, first we debond the first atom in the stick, move it to the 4th position, then take the new first atom in the stick, split it in half, and fuse the leftover fuse the right half of the split into the fourth atom. And this whole action gets repeated a bunch of times, 10 I think, until until blue manages to snag it during this red transition and output. And as you can see, this is the output molecule. The tricky part in this reactor is that basically you must find a sequence that will not give you any nobles or 1 valency atoms in the process, because of course either 0 valency or 1 valency would break everything and chuck everything up, which you do not want. And essentially this level would have to have been solved from the end to the start, to the beginning. And basically this is what has happened. Of course, I cannot show you the detailed process of solving. I will. Nothing really interesting happens in the actual player-made key reactors. We are just making first particles, and we are making the four atoms we need, and outputting, and then adding the and then after we have made we are making the correct matrix. So really nothing to it. In the first place, we have flight risk with 70. Oh yes, the metric is specifically minus. What? Okay. We have in the first place flight risk with a score of 1700 because they took over a day. It's not a good idea to take over a day. In the third place, we have Vipumei, usually a part of flight risk, but this time he competed separately with a score of a bit over 4 hours. Of course, no point in showing the logs because they are unchanged, highly inefficient long paths, but whatever. We are again making the four atoms we need. Bam 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 bam. Passing it through and making the framework that we need using this chain of things and inputs from alpha and beta. As I said, this will be an extremely rapid demonstration. In the second place, we have Darius 1 with 190, so a bit over 3 hours. First we make the framework, and then using the correct sequence of sensors both on red and on blue, we make the 3x3 matrix. And by the way, here we have the second possible molecule. Instead of 48 and 80, we have 49 and 79. So, bam, done. Just for completion, this is what we have. In the first place, we have Team Secret Foundry with a score of 147, so 2.5 hours. They have one reactor per atom. Lazy Comet asks, how did we pull that off? IEEE thought that teams would have a very big advantage, but well, it did not really work out that way. Even though Team Secret Foundry did take first place, but Flight Risk ended up in the last place. They nearly did not finish at all. Okay. We basically make everything from hydrogen and pass on things that we do not need to make subsequent atoms, and then fuse everything together. Bam. Vipumei said, this was originally intended to take between half an hour and 2 hours, but as usual for this tournament, I very slightly misestimated the difficulty. Well, happens. And we made the matrix. Okay. And of course, because we have Team Secret Foundry with Yellow Bunny, we have a single Valdo solution for absolutely no good reason. So, I'm just, do I really need to comment? We are taking hydrogens, and we are passing through this loop until we detect until we stumble on the lowest sensor, which is, I think, Wolfram. No, I think it's Wolfram. So, no, I think it's tin. Yeah. So after we hit the tin, we then again go through this loop until we hit the next up barium. Well, and that's how it goes, using this chain of flip-flops until we end up with what we need. Let me just show real quick how it works. We end up with this L shape, and then we make the framework. Okay. And of course, this is not a true single Waldo solution because you have more than one Waldo in the lock reactors, but well, you can't really do anything about it. So that's it for this level. Wait, let's, for completeness, show the score. The score is not the matter. Yeah, the rules did not change. Yellow Bunny says that the rules did not allow him to change those reactors. Of course, that is completely true. So this is as close as to single Waldo as we can come. Okay, that's it for this level. Thank you for coming, and see you in a few minutes.
No.
We are back to recording. So, repeat the question, please.
So I was saying we've talked a bit about the puzzle, we have seen the solutions, and we saw the winners. But we usually talk about how did we design the puzzle, like what solution did we want to see, why did we put the inputs in one spot, how did we choose the reactors. And I think the most interesting part of this puzzle is how did you design this?
Okay.
Like if the average viewers knows a bit about cryptography, this looks like some cryptographic construction in which you have these reactors all computing some cryptographic primitives, and you're solving what's called a very reverse problem, which I never remember the name. So how did you design this transformation?
Yeah.
And what solutions, like what solving process did you want to achieve? Because you do not see the solving process in the solutions in this case.
Yeah.
And but I think you had something in mind.
Yeah. So the way I had designed this is, first of all, I had started from the end the same way that everyone well, that probably most people solved in the same order that most people probably solved it. The issue, of course, being that the force reactor is quite how do I say, restricted in that the transformation that it imposes on the atoms requires a lot of steps, around 10 I think, during which we cannot allow any 0 or 1 valency bonds to happen. So the way I designed the force reactor is just by writing a Python script and going through a good looking sequence of atoms until I found something that worked. And the input to it became the input to the force reactor, and the output of it became the final output. The way I had the overall design process is that I wanted each reactor to do something fundamentally different. So first we have a work with bonding, then we have a bond sensing, then we have second and third reactor are more or less a single unit that perform a conditional fuse split operations, specifically depending on the number of bonding of maximum bonds. Depending on the valency, we are subtracting a different number. And of course, the last solution is just pure math. The way I envisioned people to solve this is essentially one of two ways. Either you are writing a Python script, or you are sitting down with a pen and paper and looking for patterns that will produce interesting things. Produce interesting things. This is probably the most noticeable in the first reactor, for the reason that because there were essentially two possible ways to solve the first reactor. One approach would be to see what specific sequence of atoms you need, and go backwards from it. You can either do it by brute force, reversing I think there are like 24 operations, or you can look for specific patterns in the way basically a single pass through blue and red moves which atoms to which positions, and then you note this on a piece of paper and multiply this operation by however many times this loop repeats, and that's how it happens. Or another way is you just brute force a random matrix, and then you watch which atom ends up in which position after the transformation. That's of course also valid, and that's something I also predicted people would do. With the second and third reactor, I did not really have anything particular in mind. By the way, I did not know how many solutions this would end up having. I think there are a total of two possible solutions, but it could have been one, it could have been many. I didn't really know. And of course, in the final reactor, which is more or less the main one, so to say, I expected people to write a script because, working with this, I don't know whether there could have been any good patterns that you could have found with pen and paper that would have allowed you to extrapolate backwards from the final output and determine which sequence of inputs would have been valid. Okay, I understand that this was a bit of a mishmash explanation because that's how I roll. Okay. Alright. I also want to show an earlier version of this puzzle. It was called pen testing. You had only a single reactor, and you had. And by the way, I forgot the base solution, so please look away for a second. Okay, this is the intended input, and this is the how the initial version of it looked. You had a carbon and hydrogen inputs, no fusing, and you had to design a certain polymer that would run through this whole gauntlet and would end up getting transformed into the sequence that you want. This ended up not really fun or interesting. It was very easily brute forceable because you only had two possible states. And at the same time, it would not have been at all fun to actually work backwards through this to actually compute which input you needed to end up with the output you ended up with. So for this reason, this version of the level got scrapped, and we got what we got with several reactors, each of which was much better parsable, much better understandable, and just a much better and more fun experience in my opinion. Okay, so I don't really have anything much more to say right now. Do you have any more questions?
No, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you
okay.
very much. Like, you could see how transforming one single blobby reactor to a set of separate processes would help people decode this thing much
Uh,
easier in a
yeah.
iterative process.
And especially one thing I would highlight is that we have a lot of loops and repeats of operations, because initially basically everything was a singleton, every operation was performed once, but now we have much more loops, which I think actually makes this an interesting problem and not just a brute forcing one. Okay.
Yeah. The initial I evaluated the initial version, and I was sure I could solve it by scripting. And looking at it, I'm still sure there are like, I don't know, something like 10,000 combinations. It's something you can give to a script. Scam will find out the solution in minutes probably.
Yeah, and now of course we have many more combinations because we have fusion. We have fusion is the
Yeah,
case.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like the fusion brings this out of the range of scripts,
Yeah.
so this has to be solved by human.
Yeah.
And this kind of also minimizes a bit the teaming advantage, because if you have this sort of complicated process, you have some sort of gated understanding each reactor, and you cannot really do progress in parallel. While, if you have some single horrendous big block reactor, you can assign one member of the team to each reactor part and hope you gain some understanding. Here, if you send some atom wrong, everything changes, and so this was much better designed than the first version.
Yeah. This I don't know whether it could really have been parallelized for teams. I don't know how the teams approached it, but yeah, I think this was pretty much serial and basically balanced in such a way to not give teams very much of an advantage, a very high advantage which they would have if it was a very parallelizable. Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yellow Bunny is saying something. We
Yeah.
will wait for him and then close.
Oh, they did end up parallelizing. Lazy figured out what reactor 1 does, and Yellow Bunny figured out the other 3 reactors.
Yeah, you see, still teaming still has some advantages, but
Yeah.
they are not as big as they would be in the older puzzle, I think.
I don't think the initial version was also parallelizable, but I just think it was a mess. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, and thank you everyone that
Yes.
submitted.
Thank you for submitting, and congratulations to Team Secret Foundry with yet another victory.
Yeah, see you guys in 3 minutes.
Yeah.